All right, hi, welcome to week 2 of our database development design course. This is our first lab walkthrough. In this lab, we'll be using SQL Server Management Studio, so some of you may not be familiar. So we're going to pop over real quick and take a quick look here. All right, so here's our SQL Server Management Studio. If you haven't been in here yet before, when you first come in, you're going to get a window pop up and kind of like this. Okay, so in here, you're going to put the name of the server name, which if it's a local, it'll on your local machine like I've got right here, it'll just populate itself. If you're using the school database one, you're going to have the name of the I have the name of the database in Canvas. You can just drop it in there. You're going to keep with Windows authentication, which will just pass through your credentials. So whatever your login is, like single sign-on thing, in LDAP. Other options, of course, exist where you can use like Azure for this is more for the cloud-based things. Then we have the SQL Server authentication. That's where you can make a local user credentials, but we're not going to worry about that today. Main thing we're going to do is just get in there, and I'm already connected to my database here. So what you want to do is once you get in, you're going to click on the databases, and then you're going to go down and you're going to look for your G number. If you are trying this from home, you can just create yourself a database. Just go there, new database, and just simply name it whatever you want up here and hit OK. And it'll create a database for you there and you can go. I've got a lesson linked. I can put a link in the description for a lesson on how to do this, how to import data and put it into the database because I put in the file I do have a couple of, if you go to my website, which I will have the link for, I'll also have the link for this down in the description, but you'll see the lab instructions are here and also these two files. They're Excel files that you can import into your database if you're doing this at home. And here's the link to a lesson on how to import Excel files into your SQL Server database, and there's also a video there for that as well. Anyway, so we've got our files in there, so we're going to go ahead and take a look, and I have in my file here, I have a table called cust orders. Again, if you're my student in your database already, if this is a class, if you're doing this remotely, just watching, you're going to have to do it yourself. All right, so you open it up and you can see quickly we've got a couple columns here. We have an order ID, a cust ID, price, payment, transaction date, and department. If we want to see what's in there, we can go ahead and just create a new window up here, new query. I want you to notice something here. As soon as this opens up, sorry, it's a little delayed here. See up here, this is a drop down of all the databases available here. You can see I could pick a different database. Master is kind of the standard. So if you're trying something that's not working, make sure you're on your database. Another thing I always recommend people do is just put at the very top of any query, just go ahead and do this. Just type in the name of your database. You type in the word use, the name of your database, and just put a semicolon. That way, as soon as you execute this query, as soon as you hit the execute button, if you watch this, I go over here, I'll put this in a different database. So it's on master. So now anytime I execute, it immediately changes my correct database I want. All right, good. There. Now let's go ahead. Let's take a look at the lab. What are the lab instructions saying here? Because that's what we're here for, is a lab walkthrough. All right, so here's our lab. So what we're going to do in this lab is using the customer order table, which I just showed, we're going to return all columns. We're going to answer these questions here. So one thing I'm going to recommend you do is just take this, copy it, and just paste it right here. Okay, and then we'll work from there. Now, I'm going to show you. We go right in front of all these, and you just put a nice 2 dashes. Notice they all turn green. What that means is now they're all comments, they're remarks, so they're not going to be trying, nothing's going to try to run this as a SQL statement. So we're just going to put our SQL statements after each one of these. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is return all columns and records for our customer. So let's go down here, let's give ourselves a little bit of space. And remember, the 2 basic things you need for any SQL statement are select and from. And from is probably the most important. We got to know what table are we trying to get from. So we want this customer orders. There's a couple things you can do. You can type it in, or you can literally just grab it and drag it over. There it goes. You'll notice these little square brackets it puts around. That does it by default. You do not need those. If you just type this yourself, You do not need any of this. In fact, this DBO you can even get rid of. The DBO is called the schema. And since I only have a single schema in my database, you'll notice they're all DBO. I don't need to actually type the schema in. It knows there's a schema there. I'm just going to, for habit, put my semicolon at the end there. And let's go ahead. We want all columns and records. That means we want no filtering. We're going to use our wildcard for our select statements. We're going to use the asterisk there. And we take this, we highlight it, and we execute. And there you go. Now we have, down below, we have all of our stuff here. So this is all our records. Okay. Now let's go ahead to the next question. Next question is return only order ID, cust ID, and payment columns. Okay. So that means I don't want all the columns. So what do? One thing I can do is just to save myself again from typing if I'm lazy, just copy and paste that. And I say I want order ID, cust ID, and payment columns. So again, I could go into here and I could drag my column over, or I can just type it in, cust ID. And notice sometimes it does pop up below. This doesn't always work right, but it is available. Sometimes it's auto, I forget the name for auto sense or some name they have for it, but it doesn't always work. But when it does work, it works pretty good. So we're going to run this now, execute this, and there. Okay. Now notice I'm highlighted when I hit the execute button. If I don't do that, if I just go to this and hit execute, it's going to run everything in order. But that's why you have to make sure you have these semicolons so it knows, hey, run these both again. So run these one step at a time so they don't think it's all one just big query. All right, so there we go. We ran that. Now we have 3 columns. So that's good. All right, alias. Now we're going to alias. We alias columns, so mainly for ease of reading for people out there. Okay. It doesn't affect the actual column in the database. All it affects is how the output of the column works. So we're going to go here and we're going to change the cust ID to customer ID. I want to go ahead and pop over here and we've got cust ID. Now, if you're not in my class, I'm mentioning here, I'm taking this. I have another video lesson that kind of explains all the SQL we're doing ahead of time. So, you could watch that too. But so the alias, we're going to use the word as, and then I want it to say customer ID. So I'm putting it in the brackets because I have a space. If you have a space, like in this word here, you need to use these square brackets. Otherwise, SQL will think these are 2 different columns we're talking about. So now I run this. Now you see it says customer ID in that column. So that's taken care of. Okay. Now the next one. Using where, I want to return all the records with a payment as cash. Okay, so we're now run to a new one. Let's just go ahead, start a new select statement. We'll go select, and we're just going to do the star from cust orders. Okay. I do want to point out that SQL is not case sensitive, so you don't have to have capitals or any of that stuff in there. All right, now we want to where something. We want to return all the records where the payment is cash. So payment is the column we're concerned with. So we're going to go down here and we're going to create a where statement. We're going to say where. If I can type, it'll work even better. Payment, that would be the column we want, equals cash. We use single quotes here in SQL, not double. So there we go. And there you go. It's going to return everything, nothing but cash payments. You won't have anything but cash. All right. So the next one. Okay. I know this is kind of rolling over a little bit on the screen. See if I can adjust the screen so you can see the whole thing. Oh, come on. Sorry. There we go. All right, so there we go. Where the transaction date is after January 1st of 2021. So we won't want anything before then. So we're going to do the same thing, all columns again, except now we're looking at the transaction date. So we're going to say where, again, if I type, this would be even better, date, there it is equal to, or not equal to, sorry, where trans date is greater than, because we want after, and then we're going to say 2017-0-1. Okay, so now it will run everything that is after that date. So up here, I'll execute, and you can see all the dates are greater than January 1st, 2019. And this will not return January 1st of 2017. If I wanted greater than or equal to, I'd have to put the equal sign in there too to make that work. All right. All right, we're going to next we'll return dates where trans date in between two dates. So we're going to go ahead and change it up. Now, instead of the greater than, we're going to type in the word between, and we're going to start with a lower date. So we're going to say January 15th, January 1st of 2015, and 2020 0101. Okay, close it out. Now, unlike this greater than or equal to, the problem with spelling. There we go. There we go. Trans date between. It will include these dates. So January 1st of 2020 and 15 of 2015, if they're there, they'll appear in the date. So we go there, we run it, and it gives us everything in between. Those are all the dates. You could look through it all yourself if you wanted to and verify. All right. So using query 6, we're going to order results from the trans date oldest to newest. So let's go ahead and copy the last query we just did. Put it down there, scroll up so we can see better, and we want to order. So we order is we have to use our command order by, which we want the trans date, and we want oldest to newest. So we want descending. We don't want ascending. We want, we want just by itself ascending. So it'll be oldest to newest. It's going to start at the lower. So by default, it's ascending. So by default, it's going to start the oldest and go up. And if you wanted to manually put that in there, you would actually type in this ascending, but by default, it's already ascending. If we want to do the same thing now for the next one, we want to move it newest to oldest. All we do is copy the exact same thing, and we change this command now to descending, okay? There we go. And now we've got it starting in 2019, working its way down. Okay. Now, I think this is an actual, yeah, this is a duplicate, I'm sorry. So 9 is a duplicate of question 4, so you can just skip that one. And then finally, we want to return all the records where department ends in the letter S. So let's go back up here. It's going to grab this first part. And let's just take a look at our data again. So it never hurts just to run a query to look at the data. And we're concerned where department ends in S. Okay, so we're filtering, so we're going to use the where statement. And we're filtering on the department. But instead of an equals, because we're going to be working with a wildcard, so we're going to use a like statement. Because when you're working with like, when you're working with a wildcard, you have to use like. Now, the main wildcard here is a percentage sign. Okay. This means anything that ends, you can have 1,000 letters in front. As long as it ends in S, you're good to go. And there you go. Toys, electronics, tools. Now, if I wanted to do beginning, now if I change this, I could make it ones that start in T only. And see, that's toys, tools, that kind of thing. And you could also do something like this where I want it where it starts with T and ends with YS, okay? So you can go on both sides. So that'll return only the toys. All right, that's it. That's everything you need for this lab. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you guys next week.